Okay, we are live on YouTube whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular board meeting of August 18th, 2020. This is an electronic meeting via executive order and following those rules and regulations. At this time, I would like to call the meeting to order, and I would like to have the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Clerk, can you do roll call, please?
Liz Smith,
Here.
Henry Voorhees,
Present.
Mike Powell,
Here.
Scott Ruggles. Scott's absent. Roman,
Here.
Mr. Lilly is here, Mr. Kowal.
Here.
6 members present and 1 absent.
Thank you. At this moment, I'm looking for an approval of the agenda. Mr. Lilly. Mr. Lilly.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda with 1 item that we move public comment to after item 8. Your request.
I have a motion, looking for support.
I'll support.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. I will take that as support. Roll call vote, please.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Voorhees,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggles, Roman,
Yes.
the Lilly votes yes, Mr. Kowal.
Yes. At this time, I'd like to move to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a list of revenue expenses, check disbursements, a compilation of bills and expenses for the operation of the township. Mr. Clerk,
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion looking for support.
Support.
I have support from Andy Voorhees. Roll call vote, please.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Henry Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles, Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Kowal.
Yes. The next item is 7A, approval of the regular board meeting I'll do A and B together as we've done in the past on these Zoom meetings. I'll do A and B, the regular board meeting of July 21st, 2020, and a special board meeting of August 6th, 2020. Any comments or questions from the board? Mr. Powell.
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. Let's start with the July 21st minutes, please.
Okay.
On page 7, in the 3rd paragraph, the last line in the 3rd paragraph, and I apologize, I didn't get a chance to pull it up, and I should have. There's the word seen in there instead of saw. Do you see where that is?
Yes, I do.
All right.
I see the saw.
Yeah, and then, okay, then page 11, on the 1st paragraph, 6th line down, there's a word that says, somebody says it makes sense, and it should be makes sense.
Oh,
Mhm.
Very
Then
good. Oh,
then on page 13, paragraph 3, 4th line down, and I think it's the 2nd word in, something like that. It's sown, and I think that should be 1. Did you
You
guys
need to
find it?
move the S over.
Yeah, just move the S over.
okay. Okay, very good.
Then page 17, I got a kick out of this one. Page 17, 8th paragraph, or the very last paragraph, the very first line, it says there that I design skeptics. I do.
Yep.
You guys know I do, but it's really septics.
Mhm.
Very good. Mr.
Then if we
Powell.
go to the next board meeting, since you took them both the same,
Yes,
on page 4, that's paragraph under paragraph C, second paragraph, first line, that shouldn't be board, that should be owner, the owner, not the board. I'm just kind of suggesting the owner should not piecemeal it back to the board each time. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
thank you. Any other comments from any of the board members?
We're all good.
Okay, seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of July 21st as amended, and the special board meeting as of August 6th amended. Looking for support.
Support?
I have support from Mr. Powell. Roll call vote, please.
Paul,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Ruggles. Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Koval.
Yes. Motion carries. Now, something we get to do here as a board and a township that I know that we like to do. It's a fun thing. It recognizes people in our community. And I happened to come across something that I thought was rather fascinating. We are very lucky to have a very high-level medical facility here on Valley Hospital in our area to care for our residents. And we're even luckier to have Madonna Lassiter, who is a resident of White Lake, who's been named the winner of the Nightingale Award in the Advanced Practice Nursing category. She is employed at Huron Valley Sinai Hospital. Each of this year's 11th Nightingale Award winners received a little check, which is a little goodie, and a bronze statue of Florence Nightingale and a Nightingale ceremonial pin. Nominees were nominated by their peers, supervisors, and patients in recognition of their superior nursing expertise. Now in its 32nd year, the Oakland University Nightingale Awards for Nursing Excellence recognizes nurses from a variety of clinical roles who go above and beyond in caring for patients and families. So Madonna, are you there?
I'm here. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So
Hi.
we're very proud to have you at that facility and as a resident of White Lake Township. And I was very pleased to see a very nice picture of you that I came across in one of the articles I was looking at. We are a community that takes to its heart the people that are in it. And I think everyone here, there is not a board member here that doesn't truly care about what White Lake is all about and trying to make it a better place. I defy that with anyone. So when we have people that do things that are above and beyond the call of duty, we like to try to recognize that. We don't catch everybody, but we happen to catch you.
Yeah.
So
Well, thank
with
you.
that, I would like to read a little proclamation, exemplary citizen recognition.
Thank you.
Whereas it is a genuine privilege to congratulate White Lake resident Dr. Madonna Lattiser on her recognition by Oakland University as a recipient of their Nightingale Award for Nursing Excellence in the Advanced Practice Nursing category. Recipients of this award are recognized for going above and beyond in caring for their patients. Whereas Dr. I'll get that out. I beg your
Lattiser,
pardon.
you got it right. the first-
That must be French, the way I'm
Yes.
reading it. Lattiser is board certified clinical nurse specialist at Huron Valley Sinai Hospital and the Harris Women's Center, where she works in the area of labor and delivery, neonatal and women's health. Dr. Lattiser also writes women's health policies for Detroit Medical Center and serves as an educator for staff in the areas of labor, delivery, pediatric, and special care nursery. Whereas Dr. Lattiser is an active member of the Association of Women's Health Obstetrics and Neonatal Nurses as Michigan's legislative coordinator, whereas Dr. Lattiser is published author with a clinical focus on decreased maternal morbidity and mortality, and finds time to lecture on topics such as malignant hyperthermia,
That's right.
obstetric, I can't get that one, obstetrical hemorrhage,
Obstetrical
and
hemorrhage.
human trafficking. whereas Dr. Medina Ledesser, a White Lake resident, enjoys spending free time with her husband JP and their 4 children. 4 children. Therefore, let it be known on behalf of the entire Board of Trustees and the community of White Lake, this document is signed to recognize and appreciate Dr. Madonna Ledesser as an exemplary citizen of White Lake Township. And it is signed by myself, the treasurer, Mike Roman, Terry Lilly, and all the wishes and goodwill from all the trustees and board members. Thank you very
so
much for your service. Yes.
Thank you so much. Very nice
Thank
of you.
I'll get hooked up with you and we'll get this to you, okay?
Okay, thank you. I
Another
appreciate
little
it.
thing, another thing you have hanging on the wall for some
That's
dust.
right. I'll put it right in my office.
There you go.
Thanks for taking care of America.
Oh,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Especially at these times with all the things going on, we are very appreciative of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Next, we have a guest this evening who is our Congresswoman, Hayley Stevens. Hayley, are you there? Hayley?
I'm here. I'm getting the video on. There we go.
How are you? How are
Hey,
you?
nice to see you. Nice to see you, Rick. Great to, or Mr. Township Supervisor. It's nice to be with you all this beautiful August evening.
Welcome.
Well,
welcome.
we always look forward to know what's going on in Washington, and I appreciate you taking the time to address this board and letting us know and giving us a little bit of a legislative update. So with that, I will turn the floor over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And it is nice to be with all of you. I do wish it was in person, and I appreciate that you're having this township board meeting remotely and also including me in it. I will say the last time I saw you all, it was dark, it was cold, and I had just gotten elected to Congress, and I don't think I was fully sworn in yet. So almost 2 years later, I want to say how proud I am of all of you and the leadership that you show in a really special part of Oakland County, as well as in Michigan's 11th district. It has been a sincere privilege, and it is a privilege getting to work alongside you all in big ways and obviously in small. You've got an incredibly accessible township supervisor in Rick Kowal, and he's always given me his good peace of mind on a variety of things. I've learned a lot from him, and particularly been able to see the ways in which you all are taking the needs of your community very seriously, the fiscal responsibility seriously, and growing as a result. And it's just absolutely magnificent. Earlier in my term, I invited the Secretary of Transportation out, who I've now heard is still interested in coming to Michigan, although because of circumstances that occurred with the pandemic and probably also because of her schedule, I'd invited her to come to Michigan. She wasn't able to make the trip, but in particular, I did want to show our Secretary of Transportation some of the infrastructure needs and some of the ways in which you all are really leading the best practices of public-private partnership, and to see if we could get some of that federal resource dollars into our community after conducting an analysis of some of the federal dollars that come to Michigan for infrastructure. And that's not all of our dollars that go into infrastructure, but it's some of our dollars. Our district just tends to get overlooked. And I'll tell you all, it's because you're very good at what you do, and you run good balance sheets, and you run just a fabulous township. I did want to just kind of call out a few of you very quickly, because your leadership is exemplified in your everyday work. And Andrea, I believe you're at one of my favorite organizations, New Horizons, and I want to thank you for the work that you do with New Horizons. It was so great to be at your banquet last year.
Thank you.
I've spent, spent a lot of time on the phone with your workforce, and want to continue to support you. That's one of the things I'm doing on the Education and Labor Committee. And so thank you so much for bringing your talents to the White Lake Township Board. And Liz, thank you for, thank you, Andrea. And thank you, Liz, for your dedicated leadership and stewardship in Oakland Oakland County and for White Lake. You've just got a very admirable background. And of course, Mike is an engineer. We just, nice to see you. You're looking great. And, proud of the work that you're doing for White Lake. And Mike, your engineering background and your dedication to White Lake over decades is just amazing. And I know, Scott, you and your family farm. I still want to come see you, by the way. I admire you guys from afar and the work that you do at Ruggles Farm. So it's just so special because here we are in Oakland County. They consider our metropolitan statistical area as just that, as a part of a metropolitan area, but we get a little bit of a rural flavor as well as nice suburban living and obviously great schools and great parks. Before I get into the legislative update, Mr. Colwell, I did want to take a minute and present to you virtually over Zoom a flag that I have flown over the United States Capitol, that I had flown to the United States Capitol in your honor, in honor of White Lake. And we're going to get that over to you, and you all can display that. It is what's called a Congressional Flag. And normally we'd be in person passing this off in a more ceremonial way, but this is a part of my presentation tonight. And it's a recognition to the leadership that all of you show. And certainly Rick, the leadership that you show day in and day out. I've truly never met a more hardworking township supervisor, and the way your mind works and the way you're just so focused on pragmatic solutions. It's like I said, I'll always take a call from you if and when you need me. In terms of some of the legislative updates, I know many of us just sort of see Washington, D.C. through the lens of our cable news network and, some of the stuff that they put on social media. And I really would love to give you all just a peek into the way that Washington has worked for me these last couple of years, in part getting to work alongside the White House and other members of Congress to pass the USMCA, the trade deal that is just so important and catalytic and essential to our region. I took a stand on that when it wasn't popular. I think I was like one of a dozen Democrats who sent a note over to our House leadership just saying, hey, we need to get this passed because this is going to be American jobs. It's also going to be Michigan jobs. And as a representative of the largest concentration of automotive suppliers in the country, I want to make sure that we increase and plus up that American content piece, that we plus up the job growth opportunities and bring the certainty to our manufacturers. And lo and behold, right, and this gets no coverage, but the trade deal passes overwhelmingly bipartisan, accolades, across the aisle. And now we're moving into implementation. And you sort of pinch yourself on recent history because we got that done just in the final weeks of 2019. I would have liked to see us do it earlier, but as we all know, the legislative process isn't just waving a wand. You got to work it, but we got it done in the final 2 weeks of 2019, just as this pandemic was hitting. And we now have a real framework and a pathway to compete globally and to sell American products and Michigan products from our best in class workforce globally. And that's really going to be a key piece of this economic story as we, make our way through this, this slight downturn as a result of this pandemic. The other piece of that, and something that I'm laser focused on and working across the aisle and across the Congress on, is our resilient supply chain recovery efforts. I just introduced a bill about 2 weeks ago, bipartisan, bicameral bill. That's the way you get things done in Washington. Introduce it in the House and Senate together and do it with your friends on the other side of the aisle. So alongside with my colleague, Congressman Troy Balderson, you may have never heard of Troy. He's from Ohio. And I joke he's a Republican, I'm a Democrat. We're working together, but more so he's an Ohioan and I'm a Michigander, and we're working together. And we also passed the American Manufacturing Leadership Act together as well. That was a R&D initiative and technology transfer and a support for our skilled workforce. And so I say, okay, it's the only time Michigan and Ohio maybe come together, but it's on manufacturing and it's on our supply chain. And the Resilient Supply Chain Task Force Act is a real opportunity for us here in Michigan. One, because this bill will charge the Department of Commerce to create a manufacturing guard to be led with our small businesses, our private sector enterprises. I know they're going to come here to Michigan to make sure that our supply chain, in any type of disruption, if it's a weather event, another bio threat, a cyber attack, that we've got the ability to continue to meet the needs of our supply chain and consumer demand so that we don't run shortages like we saw. And a lot of this, guys, and this is something I know so many of you know all too well, is not being overly reliant on China. And, we've really stood up to China over these last couple of years. I'm very proud of that. And I'm a part of that agenda, as well as reinvesting and relocalizing in our American manufacturing base. And we do that not just because we say it, but because we're bringing together the partners and the ecosystem to do that. And so this bill will also support what we call open source platforms and the runnings of simulation. And honestly, guys, this is something I know, and it's just because I've spent time with you all in White Lake. I know this is something you guys could be a part of, which is we're going to run competitions to test our supply chain in a variety of sectors. Obviously you can look at food or, different parts of our, food security, different parts of infrastructure, on and on, biopharmaceuticals as well. That's a big, big opportunity and something that I'm helping to lead the charge on. So I'm laser focused in my capacity on the Science, Space, and Technology Committee. It's one of the best kept secrets in Congress because we actually get things done. And so when you guys are visiting in Washington, D.C., please give me a buzz and I'll have you come see us in the committee. And we're just doing. And it's absolutely remarkable. Right before this pandemic hit, we passed a bipartisan energy and R&D package through the committee. And we're right in conversations with our colleagues in the Senate to get that done. So I'm very optimistic about what this new environment means for Michigan, in part because we stood up to the industrial call to action. When that supply chain got disrupted, it was our automakers, it was our Michigan workforce. You all in White Lake are obviously not far from those Milford proving grounds. We saw our OEMs, along with all of our, small, mid-sized companies, step up to make the ventilators, the masks. They made I'm showing my flag mask. They made the masks. They made the face shields and respiratory devices, and everyone's looking at us coming forward. So we're going to be ripe for future entrepreneurship, small business growth, workforce development. We're so proud of our first robotics teams. While, they weren't able to compete in person, they still did so virtually. And we've got many success stories out of that with Michigan's 11th district. And also in conclusion, continuing to support our schools. I know White Lake is home to just incredible schools, and we're so proud of all of our students as they've been shouldering a lot of the undue burden of this uncertain environment, and in particular our parents as well. And I know so many of you are on the front lines in that way and doing the creative thinking, but I've been supporting and working on a bill for childcare to make sure that the 40% of daycares in Michigan that are a threat of imminent closure don't close, and so that our parents, our essential workers, our hardworking Americans and Michiganders have access to affordable daycare. So it's a real privilege and honor to be in the nation's capital, working alongside you all. And I want to thank you for the time today. And Rick, if there's questions, I'd be happy to take one or two. And I know you guys got a packet agenda, but if there's anything you need me to know of, I got my notepad out here, and I'm ready to hear what's on your mind.
Well, we certainly appreciate the time. And do any board members have any questions on anything? Mr. Roman.
Hayley, I just want to thank you for both honoring and respecting our American flag. Not all Americans do that these days, so thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, that's a big part of it. And thank you for your leadership, Mike, as well. By the way, we're lucky to have a good treasurer in White Lake. That's what it's all about. Stay close to your treasurer. And by the way, too, I'll just tell you guys, you're seeing big packages come out of Washington. And this is where, I huddle with my colleagues, because we're looking at the proper return on the spend. You know, we can't continue to balloon our deficit and obviously our debt. And I'll tell you, that's just been a 20-year problem that, you know, I don't care what party you are, it's just, we got to get very serious about it. And so as one of the new members of Congress and as someone who's worked on initiatives that have paid dividends back into our treasury, I told the chair of the budget committee, I said, you put me on that deficit commission so we can, you know, not blow it for the next generation.
Thank you. Mr. Powell?
Yes, Haley, I just wanted to thank you for at least representing that you reach across the aisle. Those of us down here on the low level of politics, we hear nothing but fighting in Washington. So thank you very much, Haley, for working with everyone.
Yeah, no, thank you for saying that. I know sometimes I wish I could put the like Zoom cam on my shoulder. I'll walk through the halls of Congress. I'm saying hi to my ranking member on the Science Committee, Dr. Jim Baird. I told him, I wrote him a note. He's a Republican. I go, Jim, if a Republican were to be president, I wish it were to be you. He's a Vietnam veteran. He lost almost his entire left arm in the Vietnam War. He went on to have this amazing academic career. He's a PhD, ran a small business, served in the Indiana State Senate, and now I serve with him on Congress, and we pass bills together. And you should see us in committee because he's Indiana and I'm Michigan. We make Big Ten jokes. We bring in the experts. We lean in. You know, I'll walk through the halls. You might not know that the vice president's brother, Greg Pence, serves in Congress as well. We were in the same class. And so Greg Pence and his wife, Denise Pence, and I know some of you are Republicans, which is fine. You might want to give them a call because they got a tie to Oakland University. And they're, you know, so they actually, and we're, you know, I say hi to Greg and his, you know, and then I realized I know some of his daughter's friends and this and that, and his office is across the hall from mine. So really, I have become sort of convinced that part of these divisions, honestly, it's like the media, you know, I mean, they're just, you know, they won't ever cover the good stuff. You know, they just want to cover the infighting, and they'll, you know, they even try and capture you if you look like you're, you know, doing some of that. And it's like, guys, I'm a Michigander, all right? And I come from manufacturing. And, you know, when you're on a shop floor, you're not looking at who believes what or this and that. You're focused on results. And that's all we get these 2 years to deliver. And so I'm proud that the president signed a couple of my bills into law. And I even submitted a letter to a congressional statement. And I said, listen, you know, because everyone's getting all hyper about the election. You know, we got a presidential election. I go, guys, millions of people are going to vote for the person who wins this election, and millions are going to vote for who doesn't win. But guess what? We've got veterans benefits to make sure they get paid. We've got food inspection to do. We've got a government to run, and that's what we've got to be committed to. So I see that every day, and I'll tell you, it can be tiring, but I'm working on it, and I really deeply appreciate you recognizing that, Mike. And I'll also tell you, engineering is a big elixir too. You can say engineering, you bring people together. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, Haley, this
Yes,
is Andrew
Andrew.
Maurice. I just want to thank you for representing us in Washington, D.C. Every once in a while, I get people that say, Andrew, you need to run for higher office. There is no way. Local is the best. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, well, I will tell you.
I don't have a
that-
comment, Mr. Supervisor, but I just want to thank you for joining us and checking in. And I'm so proud of our White Lake team. We do a great job here. So I hope you stay in contact with us. So thanks again.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks. Keep
Thank
up the
you.
great work, team.
Haley, I appreciate everything you do, and I appreciate those 7:15 phone calls in the morning I get from you now and then. And I appreciate brainstorming. And that flag will find itself adorned in our new meeting area that we have in our building, across the way in our annex. I'll make sure that it finds its way there. So with that, I say thank you very much and good night. Be careful out there, and we'll talk to you at some point in the future.
Godspeed. All right. Thanks.
Thank
See
you.
Thank you,
all.
Congresswoman.
Thanks,
Good night.
Kelsey.
Yep. See you.
Good night. Okay, moving on to item which was shifted, which would be our public comment. At this particular time, if anyone in the public has anything that they would like to state, you'll state your name for the record, and you will hit I believe it is *9, right, Rob?
Yes, star
Okay.
9 to raise
And
your hand.
Rob will monitor the room to see if there's anyone out there. So now I will now put it out there to the call to the public. If anyone would like to have anything to say at this time, public comment.
We have a couple phone callers, residents listening. No one has raised their hand at this point. No one has
Okay.
raised their hand.
No one's raised their hand?
Nope.
Okay, then we will
Oh,
close.
I'm
pub-
sorry. Oh, somebody did, and then they took it
Withdrew?
back.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's, they can always call us and we'll talk to them.
All right, very good.
So, but if there's no one under public comment, we will close the public comment and move on to item number 9, which is a public hearing with a resolution. This hearing is to establish and maintain a special assessment district for emergency sewer connections 2020 to 2021. Essentially what this is that we have emergency sewer connections that the township does from time to time, and we bundle those together in a single assessment roll. At this time, Janine, how many members do we have to this particular SAD?
Yeah, 3.
Okay,
Jeannie,
You're-
you're
He's
muted.
muted.
Jeannie.
you're muted, Janine. Gotta hit your unmute button there.
Nope, you're still muted.
Still muted. 3?
Hey, Rick, can I comment
Yes, please.
while we're waiting? There are 3. They're an exhibit attached to the resolution. But
No.
the reason I wanted to comment was because I recognize a name. One of the names could be the person that Rob was trying to figure out. I don't know if that person is still in the room. The Fendlet.
No,
Okay,
there's only one person in the waiting room right now, Adam Schrotenboer. I'm assuming that that's a resident who accidentally tried to join as a video participant.
Okay, sorry.
All right, well, thank you very much, Lisa. So we have 3 parcels. Now, at this time, we're going to open a public hearing. So I am making a motion to open the public hearing at this time for the hearing to establish and maintain a special assessment district for the emergency sewer connections of 2020 and 01. I make that as a motion, looking for support.
Support.
I have support from Liz Smith. Roll call vote to open.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ray Voorhees,
Yes.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Ruggles. Ruggles is absent. Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Colwell.
Yes. This time the public hearing is open. And again, in this format, if you have something to say regarding the special assessment district for the emergency sewer connections and this particular topic, if you have anything to say, please raise your hand by hitting the star 9. Rob?
Yes, we have one person, phone number that ends in 3158. I will unmute you.
Go ahead. Who do we have on the phone, please?
I show he's still muted.
There we go. Okay,
Okay, my name is Rob Fulton, and I was trying to get in earlier during the open communication portion. My question isn't related to the emergency sewer line connection, but I do have a question if I could ask it later.
Well, this is typically public comment and we can't respond with any answers. It's just public comment.
I did see, he did have his hand raised at the open time too.
It's irrelevant, Mike. We're in public comment. I cannot change the rules. Okay. So we'll be happy to answer any questions for you at any time. If you want to give the township a call at 698-3300 extension 6, that's my office. If you have anything that you want to know, we'll try to answer your question, or I can direct you towards any one of the trustees that you would like to speak with too, sir. So, but there's a certain format we have to follow, because we have the attorney in the upper right-hand corner of my screen over here that will give me the evil eye if I don't follow the rules.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that being said, are there any other callers?
No other callers.
At this, I'll make a motion to close the public comment on the establishment of the maintain a special district for the emergency sewer connection. And looking for support. Mr. Powell,
Yes.
roll call vote.
Liz Smith,
Yes,
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggles is still absent.
very good.
Yes.
At this time, I would like to make a motion to pass resolution 20-027 to establish and maintain a special assessment district to pay the costs associated therewith and to approve the plans and estimates of the costs, therefore to be known as the Emergency Sewer Connections 2020-01. Any comments from the board?
I just have a quick question.
Ms.
Is this-
Stewart?
Is this the first one or the second one that we've done this year? Because I love this program. I'm just not doing good memory recall on how many.
No,
we've done.
we do this it's about every 6 months, once a
but-
year, months, depending on how many of these that we have.
That's what I thought. Yep, no, love this program.
Mr. Lilly?
Just like to comment that typically during public hearing, we hear from all of the applicants that are part of the special assessment district. And I believe in this particular case, the three applicants may have already been hooked up or have agreed to be a willing participant. That's maybe why we're not hearing anything from anybody else.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else at this time? Okay, I've made the resolution in the form of a motion, looking for support. I support Mr. Lilly. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Smith,
yes,
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Lilly votes yes. Mr. Caldwell,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggles, I believe, is still absent.
thank you. Okay. Special assessment to the cost center. Counselor, any comment?
No?
Okay, very good, thank you. Moving along to item B, hearing to confirm a special assessment role for the Special Assessment District for Residential Refuse Collection Project 2021 through 2025. Now, for some of the folks out there, there was a statement that in a letter, there was a letter that went out that stated that this was a 5-year project that we were doing. This is something that is done on a cyclical basis, and it is just an annual cost of the garbage and refuse collection for the township. Some time ago, the township board decided to move forward with our existing vendor, and we were able to come to agreeable terms and assurances that we'll have the level of performance that we have had for the last several years. We'll continue on for the next 5 years. This is obviously a necessity, and by having a single hauler, we are one of the communities that has had the foresight many years ago that we only have one set of garbage trucks out there on our roads, beating up our roads, which is bad enough. But when you recently, Waterford just went to a single hauler, and at some point in time, they had up to 5 different contractors. So it could be every day of the week, you'd have a garbage truck rolling down your street, beating up your side street. So the wisdom of this board in the past and the continuous of this is to build those kind of relationships with a provider and to keep that level of comfort, so to speak, with these vendors. So with that being said, any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Lilly.
Just like to make a comment in the board. There's an example of Exhibit A that's in your packet, and that was given to us as an example of really the amounts of the assessment for the 5-year period. And I appreciate Janine not copying over 10,000 parcels that are part of the assessment. So I kudos to Janine for doing that. But I just wanted to point it out. It was an example of just a few of those parcels.
Thank you. Liz Smith, I thought I saw your hand.
I did. I just had a brief comment that I believe in July, we talked about this letter having a cover sheet or a paragraph going out in the future. And I just want to kindly ask one more time, a reminder that that practice starts going out. The letter is confusing to our residents. I did talk to Trish, and I think she is gonna try to come up with something that can accompany the letter to be a little bit clearer to residents and speak in layman's terms. So I know we talked about it once and then it happened again, it went out without it. So I just want a friendly reminder, if we can get that going in the future, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, there was a sequence of timing, and unfortunately, the timing didn't work to our advantage on this particular item. Nonetheless, that is something that I've tried to do in this office to make sure that there is some sort of layman's terms explanation when these things go out, because it prevents a lot of confusion. Thank you for
Right.
bringing the attention, Liz.
Okay, thank you so much.
Anyone else?
Mm-mm.
Okay. That being said, we are going to have a public hearing on this, so I am making a motion to open the public hearing at this time.
Support.
I have motion, I have support. Roll call vote, please.
Henry Voorhees,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Powell,
Yes,
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Colwell,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggles. Mr. Ruggles is absent.
At this time, if anyone has something to say regarding the hearing for the confirmation of a special assessment role for the Special Assessment District for Residential Refuse Collection Project 2021 through 2025, please hit the *9, and Rob, you will let them in if they are there.
Yes. No one has raised their hand yet. Give it just another second. No one of the members of the public have raised their hand at this point.
Very good. I will make a motion. Mr. Lilly.
Yeah, just for the record, Rick, I did have a letter from Lena Skaggs that wrote that if we felt comfortable with the assessment, that she was willing to give us approval to move forward.
Very good. It was nice of the citizen to
Yeah.
express that. Thanks for sharing that, Mr. Lilly. I appreciate that. That being said, I would like to close the public comment at this time. Making a motion to close, looking for support.
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 I have support from Liz Smith. Roll call vote, please.
Mike Powell,
yes,
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles. I believe Scott's absent. Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Colwell.
Yes. At this time, I'd like to make a motion for resolution 20-030, confirming a special assessment role for the Special Assessment District designated 2021 through 2025 residential refuse collection project. Looking for support.
Support.
I have support from Mr. Lilly. Roll call vote, please.
Powell,
yes,
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggles. Is absent. Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Colwell.
Yes.
You have 6 yes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Hey, Rick, I just had a
Mr.
comment.
Supervisor.
Yes, Mr. Powell.
Under just a point of order, you as supervisor run the township meetings, the board meetings. And there's probably a reason why it's generally accepted that supervisors or the chairman do not make motions. Because in your presentation of the introduction to each of the items, you then move right into making a motion and don't give the board, your other board members, an opportunity to make a motion. I know it can be frustrating sitting there waiting for us once in a while, but some of us may want to participate in the meeting. So I would appreciate that once in a while.
Very good, Mr. Roman. Excuse me, Mr. Powell, duly noted. My mic is up. Mr. Roman?
Yeah, I want to thank all of you for supporting this resolution. This is huge for the township. It solidifies really a very competitive rate for 5 more years of garbage pickup. So thanks to you all.
Yes.
Very good. Andrea?
And I just want to continue your comments. Thanks to our boards that came before us, like what, 20 years ago to get a single hauler. I agree. I have a tendency to look at other communities and they definitely have more than one hauler. So thank you to the past board members for having this foresight to do this.
Very good. Okay, anyone else at this time? Okay, moving along to item C. Hearing to confirm a special assessment role for Mandan Lake Improvement Special Assessment District 2021 through 2025. This is a resolution that will confirm, there's a resolution along with this hearing that will confirm the assessment role for the care of this lake through 2021 through 2025. Any questions or comments from the board at this time?
This is just a continued one, correct? If I remember right.
Well, it's a renewal, that's all.
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
It's been going
Sorry.
on for quite some time. Mr. Powell?
If there are no other comments, I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for the resolution for the special assessment district for confirming the assessment role for Mandan Lake improvement.
I'll support that.
Roll call vote, please.
Henry Voorhees,
Yes.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes,
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles, I believe, is still absent. Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Kowal.
Yes. We are now in public comment. Anyone that has anything that they would like to add for this particular item, which is the hearing to confirm the special assessment role for Mandan Lake Improvement Special Assessment District 2021 through 2025, can hit *9 and Rob will let you in.
No one has their hand raised yet. Still no one? I think it's safe to say no one wants to speak about this.
And I will make a motion to close, looking for support.
Support.
Support from Andrea. Roll call vote.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
yes,
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggles, I believe, is still absent. Mr.
Didn't hear that. Was that me?
Mr. Roman.
Oh, Mr. Roman.
I already got
Yes
him.
again.
Okay, Mr. Kowal.
Yes.
Thank you. 6 yes.
Okay. So now we'll go to the resolution. Looking for a motion. Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Mr. Powell.
Thank you. Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the resolution 20-028 confirming the special assessment role for the Mandan Lake improvement.
We have a motion looking for support. Mr. Lilly?
Support.
Mr. Lilly supports. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Kowal.
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
yes,
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggles, I believe, is still absent.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you. Item D, a hearing to confirm a special assessment role for the Special Assessment District Sunset/Taylor Road Maintenance 2021 through 2025. Again, this is a renewal, more or less, of an existing one. So this is a service that has been provided to these residents. They might make their life a little more palatable on a gravel dirt road. And I'd like to thank them for having the thought process to get together and do this. I wish there are some other streets in the township that people could do the same thing. So my hats off to them. So any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Lilly?
I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Okay, I have a motion to open the public hearing. Looking for
Support.
support. I have support from Liz Smith. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
yes,
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell.
Yes.
I believe Mr. Roman is, Mr. Ruggles is still absent. Mr. Kowal.
Yes.
We have
Thank
6.
We are now in public hearing for the hearing to confirm a special assessment role for the Special Assessment District Sunset Taylor Road Maintenance 2021 through 2025. At this time, if you have anything that you would like to say regarding this particular subject matter, please hit *9 and Rob will let you in the chat room. Rob?
Okay, no one has raised their hand yet. No one has raised their hand.
I will make a motion to close, looking for support.
Or
I have support from Mr. Lilly. Roll call vote, please.
Smith,
Yes,
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
yes,
and Mr. Colwell.
Yes,
Mr. Ruggles is still absent. We have 6 yes.
thank you. We now have a resolution before us to move forward. Anyone care to make a motion? Mr. Powell?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the resolution 20-029, confirming the special assessment role for the Special Assessment District designated Sunset/Taylor Road Maintenance 2021 through 2025.
We have a motion, looking for support.
Andrea
Support
will support that.
support from Andrea. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Colwell,
Yes,
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
yes,
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes,
Scott Ruggles, I believe is still absent, Mr. Colwell.
yes,
We have 6 yes.
thank you. Okay, moving on to item 10A, discussion regarding new website logo, new versus old. Well, one of the things we had around here is and we discovered things on a regular basis, and Trish and I actually discovered something else today. So I'm going to turn it over to Trish because she's been working diligently on this project along with the in-house staff to get our new website up and running, and she wants to share some things with you. Trish?
Good evening, everyone. I really wanted to just give an update, but it kind of brought up an issue as we were working through here. That's not really, I don't think, that big of an issue, but I'll start with saying that I wanted to thank the website design team, which consists of Sherry Ward, Reva Goine, and Sean O'Neill and Kathy DeRocher. We've actually really been enjoying working on this. I think everyone thought it was going to kind of be, okay, but it's been enjoyable, and the whole creative process of it's been fun to do. We're actually at a point now where we're ready to approve the design of the homepage. And once we do that, we'll be able to get some more information on timing, on how long that'll take to build the site. And while we simultaneously start working on the inner pages and how that's going to look, and they will start pulling information in. So when I have more information on that, I'll keep you all updated. As we were working on this, we were having a little trouble with the logo that we're using currently, the latest approved logo, if you will. And I sent you all links where you could see how it looked with the old logo and how it looks with the one that we're presently using on all of our letterhead. And you can see that it was much crisper, clearer, and we have an issue with the current logo being that there's a lot of this red, you can see it around the logo, gets lost, and we couldn't enlarge it large enough to make it where it was a nice resolution and it looked good. So at the moment, we're thinking we're going to approve it with the older logo, but it brought up some issues of whether or not maybe we should potentially look at using the old design or maybe revamping it a little bit right now. I know that lettering on the outside of the logo becomes an issue sometimes with shirts and things that people want to get made up because the printers have a hard time with it. So one of the thought processes is to maybe you could put the words in there and put like a white border around it, you know, but just having the red float out there doesn't work very well. So that's where we are with that. The next step, once we move forward, if we do some kind of a redesign, as long as we're a similar size and shape, we can swap that out if we need be, you know, at no cost. And if it's a major overhaul, it would probably be a minimal cost at some point. But the next steps for the website after we approve the homepage, like I said, would be to work on the inner page design, transfer data, and then finally, I wanted to make everyone aware, because I'm getting ready to put something together and put it out there to the public. We want to have a photo contest so that we can get some really nice images from around the township that we can use on the website and give, you know, photo credit where photo credit's due. And then the site will be capable of having multiple images like float throughout the day, however we decide to set it up. So those are the next steps. And if anybody has any questions, I guess I'll open that up. Liz.
Hi, Trish. Thank you for working on this. So just to fill in the rest of the board, Trish and I had a conversation about this a couple of days ago. And I don't have the history of why the logo was initially changed with the red lettering. But I did bring up perhaps we either want to go back to the old logo for consistency and brandings, that it's used everywhere. The same logo is used everywhere instead of two kind of here and there. Or do we want to revamp it to a whole new logo that's used everywhere? We will have to change our letterhead in November. So if we want to change the logo, that would be an optimal time to do so. So those are my thoughts on it. I don't know if Terry might be able to fill me in of why the logo was changed with the red lettering. Anybody know?
Well, it appears that they wanted to add the charter.
Oh, that's right. We did talk about
and
that.
the Four Seasons playground, but there's ways we can do that and still use it, maybe just with modifying it a bit. We actually found a older version of yet another version in Rick's office that someone had made, which I can send you all a little picture of it, but it's something that they had made, I think, for vehicles to put on the side of a vehicle. And it actually incorporates the founding of the township and the Four Seasons playground and the charter. It's a little bit different. It's different, but it actually incorporates all of it, and it's got it inside of it, the white, so that it doesn't get lost outside of the, there it is. Rick's got it right there.
That's great. So that's kind of what we were talking about. If there was a third option to combine it all.
Yeah.
So,
Except the year is wrong.
oh,
It's wrong. But I have Eagle Graphics looking to see if they can find that. And if they can't, they can maybe see how much it is to duplicate it, and we can decide what we want to do, you know. Mm-hmm.
okay, sounds good. So that's my only thought, that I think we should be consistent and use one logo all the way through on letterhead, decals, shirts, whatever we choose to use a logo on. I just think it should be consistent.
Yeah, that was the attention, I think, initially, but I think what had happened in particular with some of the uniforms for some of the staff is that when the printing went on the outside of it, the small printing on there, the printer, the
Right.
embroidery
Doesn't show up.
couldn't do it properly, especially in a smaller batch.
Mhm.
So I'll have this one right here that has no outside lettering because it wouldn't show up properly when it was printed. So for practical reasons, that was done. So I'm not sure, but I happen to like the one that we found today.
Yeah.
I thought it
And
was
yeah,
a
that
nice
looks good.
looking one.
I'm
Everything was
working on
in
that,
it.
and I can bring that
is
back to the board next month if you like. We can get some more information on it, and if they have to actually recreate it for us, because I'm not sure that came from Eagle Graphics, we can maybe get some bid, some pricing on it. So, and then make a decision.
Okay, sounds good. Yep, that's all I have to say, just consistency, and if we do change it, perhaps we would choose November. That makes sense when we have to change things anyways.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
that's all I
opportune
have.
time. So,
Anybody has any more questions? So,
Andrea?
Yeah, I like the old one, honestly. But I just didn't realize there were many different logos out there. That was like, I learned something tonight too. So we have 3 basic logos that we have flying out there. I always like the old ones, honestly, but I actually like the one that Rick was showing us a few minutes ago.
Yeah, that one I just can't. I was cleaning some stuff because I'm doing some painting, and I came across something in a file, and I went, "What is this?" And it was stuck back in behind a bunch of other stuff, and I pull it out, and they were apparently decals made to go on vehicles. But I believe that the year is wrong. I believe we went charter in 1985, not 1986, and I think that's why they weren't used. So I'll just double check that. But I think that's the case.
all the letterhead has 85, the present letterhead, unless there's a mistake there. So,
So, well, Terry, you're the clerk. When did we charter? 85 or 86?
I couldn't tell you offhand.
Okay. There's a historical question we're going to have to look into for sure. All right. Well, thank you.
I'll
Anyone else?
Google it.
There you go. Anyone
Yes.
else have any questions for Trish? Mr. Roman?
I just wanted to comment. I also like the old logo better than the current logo, but I'm open to whatever you guys want to do in the future.
Thanks, Mike. Mr. Powell?
I just wanted to thank Patricia and Kathy and the team. It might seem like a small item, but it takes lots of time and effort. Thank you, Patricia.
you're welcome.
And I'd also like to thank Trish for all her efforts. She's very exacting and has really made a goal to make this as good of a website as possible. And I mean, I'll walk past her, she'll say, stop. How's that blue look? How does this blue look? How does that red look? How does that look? So I tell her, well, you guys work on it. You're the committee. You bring it before, when it comes together, and we'll take a look at it, and I'm sure it'll be fine. And then this is given ownership of this project to all the staff here. And that's very important to me that they have ownership of this, because frankly, they're the ones that have to work with it every day. We only go on it, the average person's only going to go out once in a while, but these folks have to work with us every day. And I think it best represents them when they have their heart and their soul in it. So any other questions from the board? Trish, I'd like to thank you very much for your presentation tonight and bringing us up to date on where we're at with that. And we'll keep our eyes and ears open and keep watching for things in the future. Liz?
Chris, do you need a decision from us tonight,
I
or?
don't think we need a decision because they're all approved logos, and I
Okay.
think we have to approve it to move forward. And if we decide we want to swap it later, we can, they've assured me that we can do that. So I think we're okay.
Okay,
Thanks for keeping us in the loop.
All right.
Trish, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all your hard work, Trish.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 10B, the fire department request to approve a plan to right-size the apparatus fleet and to approve the sale potentially or brokering of Rescue One vehicle as part of this plan. Chief, are you there? Hi, Chief.
I am here. How are you doing today?
Very good, sir. You can kind of give us a plan of what your plan of attack is, sir.
Well, we've been looking at the department for about a year and a half right now, and the way things are set up today, we are over apparatus, if that's such a word. We have too many vehicles, and we don't have enough human beings to get them where we need them. So we are spending a lot of money on vehicles that never leave the fire station. The ones that we have listed for you there have not gone out of the station, other than maybe to drive around the block one time or wash the floor of the fire station. So there's a lot of different reasons for that. One is the number of personnel that we have. Number two, more robust mutual aid system when we do need to get assistance with water tankers and things such as that. And then specialty rescue units being provided through mutual aid in the county of Oakland. So the proposal is to right-size the fleet to match our personnel costs and the service delivery, which means we would reduce from 3 tankers down to 1 tanker and eliminate the rescue truck. So the plan was going quite well until earlier this week, when the company that had made us an offer reneged on their offer for the rescue truck. So now what the proposal will be to put all 4 of those units out for public sale and have it brokered to get some bids back, and then return back to the township board so that we get approval of sale of fire trucks. Once those trucks are sold, then we would also propose replacing the 3 tanker trucks with 1 tanker truck. A lot of different savings over time, whether it's fuel costs, maintenance costs, testing costs, and training costs. So we think it's the right thing to do based upon the type of service that we're providing today.
Yes, Chief. And I noticed that some of these vehicles have quite the age on them. The youngest being the heavy rescue, which is 14 years old. And in succession, the tankers are 18, 21, and 23 years old. So I'm sure they're either at or near the end of what I'll call an ultimately reliable life cycle, and will now start to become more of a maintenance horse. And I can appreciate what you're trying to do. And if you are thinking of getting rid of 3 and getting 1 new one, I think that's what I kind of heard around the firehouse, so to speak, because that might be potentially the idea. That makes a lot of sense. Is that part of the thought process?
The 3 tankers would be condensed down to 1. So we would buy a more modern tanker by eliminating 3. So we'd have a net down to a net reduction by 2, and then a complete elimination of the rescue truck. And we would use some other fire trucks for the more routine things, and then the very unusual calls, we would rely on the county teams.
Okay, very good. Any questions from the board? Ms. Voorhees?
I know we're potentially adding some more staff in there, Chief Marinucci. How will that affect, by getting more staff, how will it affect these, will it affect what you're doing by right sizing them?
Not at all. No, we will have an engine at each of the stations. We'll have an ambulance at 2 of the 3, and then a backup vehicle squad that we would call, and we'll have a tanker. So we still have more vehicles than we have personnel. So in order to get them out the door, we'll be in good shape with that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Powell?
Yeah, I always have a problem with us right sizing. The federal government right now is being challenged on the right sizing or the modifying the post office, and half the country second guessing that. And certainly other chiefs have asked the township board to purchase all these in the past. And so I guess I had some questions. I thought the way that the tankers work, Chief, is that while one is delivering water, another one is coming back for refilling. If you only have 1 tanker and there's a time lag between that tanker and calling in additional help from another company, isn't that a problem and water shortage for our township?
There's a couple of issues. Number one, all of our engines also carry some water, so we're getting a certain supply of water from that perspective. Number 2, we can activate our mutual aid and get tanker trucks from all of our neighbors and all of our sides. So Commerce, Highland, Springfield, Waterford, and even West Bloomfield, all part of our mutual aid system do that. And number 3, probably more critical important, is that in 18 months, we don't have enough personnel to get those vehicles on the road anyway. So to say we'll get it much faster through mutual aid, and we will guarantee that it will show up versus our response today, which we just do not have the same number of people that we may have had 10, 15 years ago.
How many tankers do the adjacent departments have?
I believe they all have one, and I'm trying to remember which one has two, and I don't, it escapes me right now.
So Highland Township only has one and they have no water source in the, except in the downtown area?
Well, there's this robust mutual aid system, which we call MABUS, which is called a mutual aid box alarm system. And so when a call comes in these particular areas, they're getting a tanker from Milford, from Heartland, from Springfield, from White Lake, whatever. So that it's an instant, almost an instant access. So they're really going to end up with maybe a half a dozen or more tankers.
Okay, and then if we eliminate our 3 tankers, one's only 18 years old, how big are each of those tankers and how large of a tanker would you be looking to replace them with?
Well, I'd like to upgrade at least the amount of water a little bit. So we're looking at about 3,000 gallons of water. But we also have limitations based upon our stations of what we can fit into. So it will depend upon the specifications and the length of the vehicle, the size, the suspension system, etc. So we will be limited in the amount of water because of weight and size of the vehicle more so than anything.
So you didn't really answer my question. How many gallons does each of our tankers use now and how many gallons would you be replacing it with?
Well, I think each one has 2,000 gallons apiece right now. And so we'd be looking to get a 3,000 gallon tanker.
Okay. All right.
1.5 times. And again, looking at the fires historically as we go, you're kind of getting there quick enough with the right number of people. So also by having the station staff, you're getting to the fires quicker and hopefully catching them a little bit smaller too.
So in past years, you're saying that we had more people in each station to be able to man those, or did the other chiefs make a mistake?
Well, I think at one point in time, you had a whole bunch more paid on call members, and our paid on call ranks have shrank significantly. And so they're just, at one point in time, there were much more assigned to each of the stations, and they just are not responding to the calls, the ones that we have left.
In your letter, though, you say you have typically five people in a station manned. That doesn't include the on-call that would show up afterwards to pick up an equipment, right?
Okay, yeah, we have 2 firefighters in station 2, 3 firefighters in station 1. We are averaging less than 2 paid on call responses per call out, right, for the last year and a half.
And that's for a fire call out, or is that for medical?
Any call out, any call out. Now, every once in a while we may get 5 or 6, but we'll also have some get 0. Over this past weekend, there were 3 fire calls. One of them had 4 responders. The other 2 had only 2 responders.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Yeah, personnel seems to be an ongoing problem, and having equipment's fine, but if you don't have the ability to deliver that equipment anywhere, it actually becomes more reliable to depend on mutual aid. We can get to them, they can get to us. So that is something that does concern me as to how that plays out.
So piggybacking on that, Rick, and what Andrea said, is this board then saying that we are not going to be adding any additional staff, full-time staff to our fire department?
Well, that's not the case. We're looking for staff right now. We're doing interviews and everything of the sort. None of that intention has changed. It's just that by the time you start to fill in the shifts, and if we can manage to man number 3, we may or may not have the need to have that 3rd tanker or even 2nd tanker based on the amount of actual runs that we have and the number of other people that show up. If there's one person at a station, they respond with one piece of equipment. One station may respond an engine, the other may respond a tanker. I'm not going to pretend to know what they do in the order they do it. That's chief's business. I'm not going to second guess that. So they did do an audit committee that looked at this particular need. And this audit committee was a committee done of the command staff, correct, Chief?
Yes, and we have an apparatus committee that I asked them to evaluate the fleet and make recommendations.
Okay, thank you. And with that recommendation of the people that actually operate the equipment, that's why I give this, something to be brought before the board so we can make a decision, decide what direction to go in. I will say that when I do get the tones, because I do hear almost every fire tone, that oftentimes I'll see there's a mutual aid call from another community or we'll call out from mutual aid, even if it's just a watch over our station. So I think it works pretty good. And I know that for the most part, we can rely on that. We will be, trying to bring some people on. There's no question about that. That's the intention. But it's proving to be a challenge to find qualified people or people that want to go into the fire and, of course, in the police too. So, Mr. Roman.
Chief, thanks for being with us today. I'm just curious if you have a ballpark expectation as to what each of these 3 tankers might bring in the marketplace.
Well, the original assessment for the rescue was about $125,000. Depending on the year, the tankers could go anywhere from 50 to 150,000 is the estimates.
Okay. And how about any idea what a new tanker goes for?
Well, depending on that spec, it could be anywhere between 350 and 500,000.
Okay. Thanks, Chief. That's all I had.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Liz Smith?
Thank you. Chief, I just want to say that I trust you completely in your leadership, and especially I'm grateful for these input. They're the boots on the ground, so we need to be respectful of their input as well. I just have one question, and it's for the future. As we look forward to a new public safety building, what is the normal life expectancy of the tanker? I think you mentioned something about the size and the weight limits us to what we're able to get now. Is there any benefit? And I don't want to ever make our residents wait or our firemen wait for equipment that they need now. So I want to be clear about that. I'm okay with it now. But what would be the expectancy of what we might need in the future for a new station?
Well, the station that we're looking at right now would certainly have adequate space, if that is your question. From that, our challenges right now is the existing stations and making sure that we're able to put the vehicle into what we have right now. We will realize some space savings. Obviously, when you're going from 4 vehicles down to just 1, it gives us a few more options. So we will be okay from that perspective. But
okay,
the stations that we're looking at right now would be adequate to house these.
okay, thank you.
Okay, so Chief, are we looking to get approval to move these into a brokerage situation? Is that what you'd like to have tonight?
Yes, in lieu of originally, like I said, when we drafted that report, we had an offer on the table, and what they did is a little more due diligence and found out the amount of engine hours on the vehicle. So they decided to pull back their offer. So now we would like to just broker all 4 vehicles.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Mr. Roman?
Yeah, Rick, what is the game plan here going to be? Is it going to be to approve the sale of these, or are you thinking you'll want to bring the bids?
The bids would come
back to the board first?
Yes, what we're doing is just giving them permission to go ahead and broker these, and he would bring the bids back to the board for approval of sale.
And
yes,
and you would want a resolution that dictates the reason you're selling the surplus property. So it would be part of whatever you approve, but that would be at a future date.
That would be at a future date upon the sale. Correct. So right now we're just allowing them to be brokered. Okay. So any other questions from the board? Mr. Powell?
I have been on the board a while, and I've sat and listened to other chiefs ask for equipment to be purchased and giving a good reason why it should be purchased. And boards at that time have said, why should we micromanage? We have to believe our chief, and therefore we've purchased other equipment and other vehicles and these vehicles.
I believe that the chief has come up with some reasons here to eliminate those, but one of them is the experience on each of the different equipment, but really we're only talking about 2 different pieces of equipment. We have 3 of the same, so you only need to have one person know how to drive, or all of them know how to drive. There's only 2 type of vehicles, in other words. So we're not talking about 4 or 5 different type of vehicles. So I think it would be very short-sighted for us to sell these things this time until we have a better handle on what our final staffing would be. And so only time will tell, but I'm not in favor of this.
Very good. Any other board members? Okay. Liz Smith.
Thank you. Chief, just out of curiosity, with Mr. Powell's comments, is there any particular reason why you'd like to do it now? Any benefit or pros or cons? I mean, what would happen if we waited?
You're going to keep spending money. That's all it is. It's, you're heading down the track. If you want to spend the money, that's what your job is, to decide where you're going to portion it. But we're going to keep putting fuel in it. We're going to pay for the insurance. We're going to have to do annual tests on it to make sure that it's working. We're going to have to find the right parts when they break down. We all know that the less you do use vehicles, a lot of times that costs more in repairs. Sometimes they're better to be out on the road. But again, we come to you with recommendations, and what your decision is, that you ultimately are the decision makers for the township. We're trying to look at how to be more efficient and effective with our entire operation. This was one way we looked at possibly realizing some savings from some vehicles that never leave the fire station. But there is no, other than that, there is no sense of urgency. We can keep parked in the station forever if you want.
Okay, thank you for answering. I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit, but I do appreciate your answer, and thanks for bringing it to the board.
Thank you. Mr. Roman.
I'm going to respect the findings of the audit committee, and I would like to make a motion to broker the 3 tanker trucks and the 1 heavy rescue, on the caveat that those bids will be brought back to the board.
Support.
We have motion, we have support. Roll call vote, please.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Powell,
No.
Mr. Roman.
Yes.
I'm going to vote no, and I want to explain. I think this whole situation needs to give it some further thought, as Mike had indicated. It wasn't too long ago that we created more chiefs than we did Indians, and I think the board needs to look at the whole makeup of our department before putting a bunch of equipment. So, well,
I vote yes.
Mr. Ruggles, I believe, is absent. So
You have 4 votes, Chief. The motion carries. You can arrange a broker, but you will return to the board prior to any authorization for any sale. And we can review the offers that come in and decide whether or not it makes sense for the township to move forward with that. All right.
Understood.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
All right.
Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. All right. Item 10C, first reading amendment to the sewer ordinance, chapter 38, article 4, section 38-418, a section we all love and know so well. Okay, Lisa, you're smiling. I see you grinning over there. Any comment?
I did the best I could with what we have, and open to any other comment on what we've drafted. I took what I believe to be the intent of the board from the last board meeting, and I made the changes showing in red line.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any of the board members have a question at this time? I think we set out and achieved our objective. Mr. Roman?
Hey, yeah, Lisa, the first area of the blueprint, kind of on the, do you have the amended article, Lisa?
The amendment?
Yeah, the amendment we have has some blue print.
Yeah, mine's red, but okay.
So, in the first paragraph, you crossed out the word which,
Right.
and I thought it made more sense with which in there.
But I added the that at the beginning of that, Lou, right?
Before we go no further, Mr. Supervisor, do we all have the same copy? Because mine's red as well.
Sometimes
Mine-
they print different colors.
They print different colors. so it's
Okay, but
print-
there's just one version.
There
correct.
should be only one version because that's
One
all I
version.
submitted.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Roman?
Yeah, Lisa, as long as you're good with it, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't a typo.
Yeah, I just did it because I was repeating. So I said, and that right-of-way easement, highway, street, and public way crosses. So I felt like the that and the which was too much.
Okay, gotcha.
I was trying to be crystal clear which right-of-way we were talking about.
I see how you're reading it now.
Any other comments from the board? Okay, Mr. Powell, this is near and dear to you, so I'm looking to you for a motion.
I believe that Mr. Potter and Ms. Hamami did an excellent job and picked up the initial requirements here. So, Mr. Supervisor, I move that we approve the modifications to the Charter Township of White Lake, Chapter 38, Article 4, Sanitary Sewers of White Lake Township, the changes as presented.
Move to second reading.
Move to second reading. Thank you.
Second reading, yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Lilly, Mr. Lilly supports. Roll call vote, please.
Liz Smith,
Yes,
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggles, I believe, is absent. Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Kowal,
Yes,
we have 6 yes.
and that second reading will be at our next meeting, which is September, I forgot the date, the 15th, I think, or our September meeting, our regular September meeting, I beg your pardon. Okay, very good. Item 11, old business, second reading of fee ordinance amendment. Okay. Lisa, any questions or comments on that?
No, this, so you might recall months ago, the fire department requested to change their inspection fees. Unfortunately, it was only changed in one section. And this really kind of cleans it up and changes it in all the relevant sections.
I know that you worked with John back and forth on that, and I know he based his fees on information that he had gathered to make, so he could substantiate that. And I'd like to thank him for all his work and effort. I know he got a little frustrated there for a while. But in the end, I think this will work to everybody's advantage and it'll kind of clean this up. Any questions or comments from the board, please? Looking for a motion then.
Mr. Powell, I believe.
Come on, Liz.
Come on, Mike.
Mr. Supervisor, I move approval of the fee ordinance amendment as presented.
I have a motion to approve. Looking for support.
Support that.
Support from Andrea Voorhees. Roll call vote, please.
Liz Smith,
yes,
Mr. Ruggles, I believe, is still absent. Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Romans,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Kowal,
Yes.
we have
Motion
6
carries.
yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Hey, Rick,
Yes.
before
Lisa.
you go into trustee comments, I was able to find the township's incorporation resolution. And it was passed at a meeting on November 19, 1985. And I could send you a copy of that resolution if you want it.
November 19th.
1985.
I would like to see that. Thank you. I know Trish would. Okay. So those logos look great, but they got the wrong year on them. I opened that thing up and what's this? I found it was like Christmas. So, but I thought it was a good design and it was worth looking at. Okay, moving into trustee comments. Andrea.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Since we're talking fire department tonight, my history part is out the fire department. Back in 1970, we had one station. We now have 3. If they had 3 full-time firemen, we have a ton more than 3. They have 25, they call them volunteers at the time. They had 270 calls for the whole year. The volunteers made $36 per call. The chief at the time was Chief Chisholm. The assistant was Walter Osborne, and they had 3 dispatchers. And that house during that time period, it wouldn't surprise me if the dispatcher was off the house across the street from the township offices. And I just want to say happy 13th anniversary to my husband, Bob Zolak. He's last time we had our anniversary on a Tuesday night. He never saw me. I could actually get to see him tonight since we're in such an odd world right now. And as always, thank you, everyone, and be safe and be healthy.
Thank you, Andrea. Liz?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I want to start out by saying today is the 100th anniversary of the passing of the 19th Amendment for women's right to vote and participate in our democracy. This gives me and Andrea, my fellow colleagues around elected in the state, a great honor to be elected and represent White Lake Township, and it gives me the privilege to vote on this board. So I just want to mention that. Thank you. And then there's no changes currently with the White Lake Township Library. They're still in phase 3, the grab and go service. The Friends of the White Lake Township Library will be accepting donations on August 22nd from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. There's some information on the website and on their Facebook if you're interested in donating to the Friends. I also wanted to mention that we have 5 school districts in White Lake, as most of us know, and they're still offering food services. And as school goes back and we prepare to go back to school, if you're in need of free or reduced lunch, it will still be available to you, even though some options are going back online and some have a hybrid model. So I just want to mention that food is available to you and resources are still available to you. I want to say good luck to our students and parents as they go on this journey this school year. You're all in my prayers. And I want again to thank our police, fire, and essential workers for and pray for your continued health and safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Mr. Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, for opening it up and letting others to make a motion. Appreciate that. And then the only other point I had was, and I don't know who did the minutes for the regular board meeting of July 21st, but that was an enormous task, and I wanted to appreciate who did that because they put it together very professionally, and I wanted to thank them. That's it.
Thank you. I believe that was Jenny who worked on all that. So,
Great.
Mr. Roman.
Thanks, Rick. Before I comment, I just had a question for Lisa and kind of Terry too. I found it interesting when we did the roll call votes that Mr. Ruggles' name was always called, even though he was absent. And I'm just curious, in a roll call vote, does that have to be done? Council?
You're mute.
I'm not aware of a requirement that has to be done. I think he's not at the meeting, so he would reflect absent. But honestly, I would have to look at Robert's rules again just to make sure. I can't say definitively.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Well, the interesting thing, Mike, also is the fact that if he is at a remote location and if he was able to chime in at somewhere along the meeting and was part of that conversation,
yeah,
this is a whole different world here.
And that's
So-
the thing, this is different in that every single vote has to be roll call, so it's a little bit different than normally it would just pass without having called everybody's name, and I think that's why I called it to your attention.
Yep. Well, that's why Terry's the master clerk. So I was just trying to learn. Comment wise, I'll be brief. I just want to thank all of the residents that have tuned in today. I appreciate you all staying in touch with White Lake Township. Thank you.
Mr. Lilly.
Thanks, Rick. I don't know how good a job I did at the last meeting of thanking all of our volunteers that participated in the election process. My staff, a lot of people were involved to set up crews and tear down and putting equipment away and whatever. And we're still registering people from the last election. So it's an ongoing issue. The clerk's office. So I just want to let all of those people know how much we do absolutely appreciate what they do for White Lake. So.
Very good. Thank you. Well, we certainly live in a different world than we did just a few years ago and even a year ago. I was home this afternoon trying to grab a quick bite to eat so I wouldn't do it on camera, Mr. Powell. And lo and behold, special news story. Michigan State announces that they'll only be having virtual classes this year.
Oh, my.
So this is now the start of the cavalcade, the domino effect that we're going to see across this country. I think it's a shame that we're, in a sense, robbing an experience for some of our youth to be in that type of atmosphere. And I'm not talking about the frat clubs and the binge parties and things of that nature. I'm talking about the educational experience that you not only receive from a quality professor in a quality institution, but also the connectivity that you make with other students from literally around the world. It is literally Michigan State, where my daughter graduated from the College of Lyman and Briggs with a degree of which I can't even pronounce, is by far one of the most international facilities that we have in this state. And it is disconcerting to see that this is now kind of taken a back seat. We can only hope and pray that this dilemma that is upon our nation and the world right now will recede and hopefully will go forward. So to all of you out there in White Lake Township, I'd like to thank all of you for being here tonight. I certainly would like to thank Madonna Ladisser. She is an example of the type of people that we have in this community that are committed to our community and really care about White Lake and being here. And they need to get that little recognition every now and then from us because we're the ones that, that see what's going on. And sometimes we don't always get a chance. So I urge my board members, when we've got a resident out there that's done something a little out of the ordinary or gone the extra mile, let's all talk about it and let's give them a kudos because right now I think people could use a little extra. So with that, I say, Mr. Lilly, you saw your hand go up.
Rick, I apologize. I wanted to mention that I was part of the cruise this year that didn't happen. And I'm going to tell you, we started on Monday night and a cruise through Friday and Saturday. And it was absolutely terrific to see the amount of people that were out having a good time instead of burning. People really showed that they want to get out in the open. So I had a great time, and I think a lot of people down there did. So
Unofficially, you had a good time.
That's the unofficial cruise that never happened.
Very good. The cruise that never happened. Well, with that, I say goodnight, White Lake. Thank you very much. God bless. I make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
I have support from Mike Roman. Roll call vote.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Paul,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Roman.
I'm a yes. And just a quick comment. My son went up to CMU. They're having real classes. Go Chips.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Kowal.
Yes, and that is this week. Next week, they'll send him home. I hope not. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
night,
See you next
guys.
week.
Thank you, everyone.
See everybody later.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Rob.
Rob.